Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sports U podcast. Today, we'll be adding another member of the Sports U family to our group here. We have Dr. Drew. He is my brother. He loves baseball. We're going to be talking a lot, majority MLB. Possibly he'll be guest starring in a couple of other episodes as well. But Dr. Drew, how long you been watching baseball here?
About 18, 20 years or so consistently. That's just the whole league is not just one team. I mean, I definitely miss games, right? But I watch a lot of NL. I watch the big East Coast games. Follow all the prospects. I mean, I care, man. I care about the sport. I want to know everything, man. It's a beautiful picture,
Yeah,
right?
I
It's
like
not
how
just
you
one team.
summarize that up. It's a little bit of everything. The upcoming players, what's going on with the actual sport. Uh, to be honest, this is one of the main guys that actually is very adamant about the Astros getting the right type of punishment when it comes down to it. Drew, we want to say a couple words on that.
Uh, how much time you got? I feel like I could go on and on about the Astros, but I think it's just the league as a whole. I think I think it's a beautiful sport. I think it's got terrible leadership. I think part of my problems with the Astros is obviously what they did, and the way that they handled it, but I think they were really enabled by the commissioner. And later on in the show, I do want to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the league that kind of speaks more to the commissioner's competence or lack thereof. But I think it's just a product of the environment, right? Like if it's okay to do something wrong because there's no consequence, like why do the right thing, right? And
No,
it's just being held accountable.
and I can agree with you on that. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up was to show that you have a certain type of standard when it comes to the integrity of the game. You're not
Yeah,
going to let it down very easily. You want it to be a certain type of influence on the younger generation as well. What does it say to the next generation if you let something like that pass? We took big hits when we were young, and we were caught
yeah,
cheating.
man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's that saying, right? And it's not just a sports saying; it's just a general like verbiage. But it's cheaters never prosper. In this situation, they did, man. It's major dollars in contract extensions. It's parades. It's accolades. It's these rings that are on their fingers for the rest of their life. It's this thing in the history books that's always going to show that the 2017 World Champions are the Houston Astros, and none of it was earned, right? I mean, there are people who pitched their last game against the Astros at home and got tuned up because there's a bang bang on the trash can, and those guys don't have jobs anymore because the Astros hit them for 8 earned and two and a third. It's like that's the kind of stuff that frustrates me. It's more than just the fact that the Yankees got robbed an opportunity to play in the World Series, and the Dodgers got robbed an opportunity to win a championship for the first time in 29 years. At that point, it's everybody who they fucked along the way, right? I mean, they won over 100 games that year, and how many of those were at home when
Yeah,
they had this
a lot. Oh,
influence?
go ahead. A lot of people don't really talk about those things that you just spoke about, which is like kind of like behind the scenes. Nobody really cares about the next person who got rocked up, their contract and their
Yeah,
livelihood and all this, all that. They kind of lost their job as next man up,
yeah.
especially in
I
the
mean,
MLB too, with the 40-man roster and all these
you,
people. You spoke of
look at
prospects earlier.
look at a guy called his name's Mike Bolsinger, right? He used to play for the Dodgers. His last major league appearance was for the Toronto Blue Jays against, spoiler alert, the Houston Astros, and he got his tits lit, man. I mean, he got
That's
fucked
it.
up that game, and that was his last appearance in the major leagues. And after the scandal broke, he sued the majors for like millions and millions of dollars, and all that money was going to be put toward like minor league players' salaries, players who were displaced because of situations like the one he wasn't like, oh, well, I'm suing for personal damages because you costed me 20 million in career earnings. It wasn't like that. It was
Yeah.
like, hey, let's get some of this money and give it to the people who matter, right?
Hmm.
And I think kind of rolling into that minor leaguers and having that conversation because the minor leaguers are underpaid. You do have to appreciate the teams and the players who stepped up for like last year, right?
Yeah.
Last year the minor leaguers didn't play, didn't get paid, but you got guys like David Price who got traded to the Dodgers and never pitched a game for the Dodgers up until this year. Donate all the Dodger minor leaguers. He paid for all their salaries for the whole year, and then he auctions his ring off because he doesn't feel like he helped earn it.
You know
And
what?
he's an
During this like little span of me having David Price actually on the roster, and they're talking about him being the fifth starter, fourth starter before the season started. I was ragging on him a lot, especially being considered how much money he's getting paid. But
Yeah.
to kind of, we had a couple of tries before this, they didn't really work out. So this is like the really first one,
Yeah.
the final one here. But when it comes down to it, I want to give him props when it comes down to that part. Minor leaguers never really get a say in certain things, and even if like there's a star type of minor leaguer, they're not going to be there for that long. So who really cares about the quality of their type of lives, because
Right.
they're just going to get bumped up, or they already got the signing bonus when they first got onto a team. So it's never really been heard, and there's not really a squeaky wheel there. But
Right. And I
go ahead.
think something you have to realize is there are such thing as a career minor leaguer, and they get paid like less than what some people get paid for working at like retail,
Yeah,
right? With
Kazumara
way more friendly
Jr.
hours.
He was in the minor leagues for about 8 years, 8 years, and then he finally got into the MLB, and that's living off of smaller wages, and then you devote a lot of your life to that. So there's a lot of time that you get away from your family as well, and then on top of that, you have to have all the stresses of like providing for them. So it's a big topic and something that we might want to do going forward here. But Drew, I've asked you a couple questions already. We've been talking for a little bit. Let's have you bring
Sure.
up the first topic so that I can talk my head off real quick, give you a small break. You're brand new to the show. So what would be the first topic you'd like to bring up?
Yo, I want to talk about New York. I mean, there's two teams there.
Yeah,
And I
which
want
one?
to talk about both of them.
Which one?
I
Okay,
want
so
to
both
talk
of them.
about the last place Yankees, and I want to talk about how now the Mets are supposed to be like next big thing in the NL East, and you got Jacob deGrom going out there pitching 8 scoreless, right, or
Yeah.
8 innings of one-run ball and getting the loss.
I,
Like,
I,
what's going on?
mm-hmm. So
What's going on?
are we answering just what's going on with the Mets, or are we asking what's going on with the Yankees as
Let's
well?
just do both, man.
Let's do both
You
at the
go.
same
You
time. All right,
choose.
so
We'll go
two birds,
first.
one stone. For me, again, you were saying it beforehand this year about like how dominant this rotation can be, who's coming back from COVID, like it's such as a Marcus Stroman. You have Noah Syndergaard. Once again, these are all brand names. They've definitely shown some really great talent in the past, and it's just crazy because like they have all the tools. It feels like, and when it comes to their offense, sometimes they have the names like the last couple of years. They're all washed up names. But ultimately, they can never get the job done, whether that's injuries, whether that's just unproductiveness, or just people are washed. So overall, I think the Mets are always just right place, wrong time with a lot of their
Well,
players.
let's be clear real quick. Right now, as of recording this episode, the Mets are 7-4, and they're in first place in the East. They haven't played as many games because there was some COVID-related issues at the beginning of the season. They're supposed to open their season against the Nationals. The Nationals got sick. The Nationals have played 13 games. The Mets have played in 11.
Would you say that they're
But
underperforming though?
I think you get really excited when they acquire a couple bullpen guys. You get really excited when you get Frankie Lindor and then extend them the day before the season starts. And I think everything's shaping out to be you're going to have some run support. You're going to win some games. You're going to be competitive. And that seems to be the case when everybody but deGrom is pitching. And that's my problem.
And
It's like,
that's
the guy can't catch a break, dude.
and that's where I
Can't
kind of
catch a
come in.
break.
There has been many years during our fandom of being Dodgers fans where we have Clayton Kershaw. Everybody, it's like undisputed what type of person he is, especially in the regular season.
Yeah.
We never provided him with the same run support, and whenever we provided him, I think it was like 3 runs, he was like 100 and like one or some shit like that. Like basically, it was crazy. I'll probably look up the actual statistic, but basically, when we provided him run support, it was an automatic win. But there were so many games where it was on our fingertips, and they counted at the end of the season. So what I'm trying to say is that they need to catch on these types of games, and I think that with their talent that they're underperforming just a little bit, because I expected a bit of a bigger thing when it comes to the performances that deGrom gives them and them cashing in on those. You got to cash in on those games.
Yeah, I think for just to throw this out there, Clayton Kershaw in 11 full seasons, because his rookie season's not a full season. This season's obviously not over. Last season was a
Homers.
short season. In 11 full seasons, Clayton Kershaw only has 3 20-win plus seasons, one of them being his MVP year. So there's a lot of teens in there. He's never had double-digit losses except for his second full year as starter. But That's not the case with deGrom. I mean, deGrom's lucky to be 500. It's not so much that he's not winning; it's that he's getting the L because he has no run support, right? Allowing one run sometimes is one run too much because the Mets just can't muster up enough. They can't string together a couple base hits.
Who
You
is
got
going to
to
be their biggest challenge in that division for the Mets, in your opinion?
even though the Braves are having kind of a slow start and Freddie Freeman isn't doing a whole lot, Braves are in fourth right now. I still think it's the Braves. I still think that's the team to beat in that division. The Nats are terrible. The Marlins are under 500, same as the Braves. And the Phillies are good, but I don't know. I just don't. I don't think the Phillies have enough pitching. Right? They have Nola, and that's it. Um, I feel like the Braves are the team to beat. They have three good arm pieces. They re-signed Osuna. They got the reigning NL MVP. They got Ozzy Albies, who's a stud. I mean, there's a lot of Travis d'Arnaud, who for some reason figured out how to be a god at the plate last year. I just think that the Braves are the team to beat, and I think it'll be tightly contested. I think I like what I've seen in the early games, not pitched by deGrom as far as run support goes. I just don't know. I don't know if the Braves are gonna roll over and just let the Mets run away with this division, especially being so close to the World Series last year.
I think that everything that you said was great. I agreed wholeheartedly that the Braves would be the biggest threat here. I think that you can compare the Phillies, like you were saying, their pitching isn't that great, but their depth within their organization, they always have somebody right behind them that can hold their own inside the lineup and defensively as well. They have
Yeah,
a good amount of star power on the offensive side as well. So when it comes down to splitting games between the two, when it comes to the Mets and it comes to the Phillies, I think that they're kind of battling between each other and they'll split the games. But the Braves are so good that they'll overtake the division once again. Maybe the Mets, now that they got their cornerstone, can get something going next year. You see how aggressive they are, but this year, I just see them having the similar thing when it comes to their luck overall, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean,
And we can
yeah.
and you can lead this into the
I would
Yanks too.
I would agree with that. I think it really does come down to the divisional games, and it always does, right? And I think that's kind of what's going on with New York is, you just got to beat the bad teams, right? And that's kind of what's happening. And I think right now what you're experiencing in Atlanta is Freddie Freeman is he's performing, but in a way that you don't expect him to. Right now, he's on pace to have 140 walks, and his OBP is close to 400, but his batting average is less than it's like 220.
You know what
And
I
his
call
and his
that though? I call that just a slow start. And
it's a
it's
slow start.
If it's Freddie Freeman, he has such a high standard, especially coming off an MVP season. It's what else are you
Well,
supposed to say?
well, this is how I feel, right? I feel like Freddie Freeman. Yes, he's slow starting, but this is why I'm not worried about it. He's got a 178 BABIP, right? And that stands for batting average for balls in play. So that means if he makes contact and it doesn't go over the fence, how often are those balls that he hits landing for base hits? And in 1,000 at bats, only 178 of them are landing. But the weird part is he's barreling 35% of balls. He's in the top 15 in hard hit percentage. His average like exit velocity is over 90 miles an hour.
So then
So
does
he's
those
smoking the ball.
statistics basically
Yeah.
show that he's just having bad luck with it? He's smoking the ball like you just said right now,
Yes.
but it's
Yeah.
just
It's
going
not
right to
like he's making a
somebody,
lot
not
of
really
weak
finding the
contact.
holes. The shift may be screwing him, especially for Freddie,
Right.
who's a pull hitter.
Right. That's exactly what it is. He's smoking the ball just right at dudes. He's finding a lot of leather and not a lot of grass.
Vote to get
And
rid of the shift.
no, dude, absolutely not. I'm a big proponent of the shift.
Future discussion right there. Let's actually get on with the Yanks here. The
Sure.
across the street. What do they call it? The Subway Series.
Yeah, they call it the Subway Series. Yeah,
Subway
the
Series.
Subway Series.
So let's get on with it. The Yankees here.
They are when it comes to record, winning percentage, they are the worst team in the American League. And part of it is that Stanton is still hurt. Judge is still hurt. Those guys cannot stay healthy. And if both of those dudes are in your lineup for a full season healthy, that's 120 homers, okay? Probably 200 runs and probably 350 RBIs. And those guys can't stay on the field.
Mhm.
I don't understand it.
But you know what's good about the Yankees though is
Oh my God.
I don't know. I can't really hear this soundboard, but they have people that can take other people's jobs. Every single year, it's the same way where one of these big, tall giants gets really hurt somehow, some way. And it's
Yeah.
always a freak show. Maybe even on their swinging, Giancarlo Stanton always happens like that where he's taking too much of a big swing. He's very, very stiff with his swing, and it's just all power.
Oh, like Tatis did, where he swung himself onto the IL.
Exactly, and it's
Yeah.
not. It's the simple thing that we just talked about before. This is like it's an all or nothing mentality when it comes to the plate. That's what the MLB is coming to nowadays. So let's just speak on that. The Yankees are so loaded when it comes to people that are able to come up. Maybe that's they shave their beard and it makes them feel lighter, so they're able to do everything a little bit quicker, or just their organization being able to develop people. But whenever somebody goes down, they usually have at least the offense to bring him back. Now, I don't know where they're gonna go because they only have like one or two really like good pitchers, not so dominant, and haven't really shown the track record to kind of just stay on the field once again. And so when it comes to the Yankees, I definitely think they'll be in they're just having a slump like Freddie Freeman is as well. I think they definitely can get a spark coming out from not necessarily the bench, but from the farm system as well. So overall, these Yankees, in my opinion, I think Boston can remain in the top 1-2 just because they're getting a lot of people back, as well as I don't put anything across by Devers. I don't put anything across by Verdugo. I don't put anything across Alexander Bogarts. Like, those are just three quality talents already there. You're still forgetting about J.D. Martinez, who's really scorching the ball right now. So they have the pieces, right? I think these two are going to be like the biggest pieces when it comes to the end of the season. You might see another 95, 100, 100 type of division when it comes down to the end, because those guys and the Rays, I don't think they're going to be coming down either.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So if you look at, I just pulled it up. The Yankees are batting as a team 210, and the Red Sox are batting 277. The Yankees as a team have an OBP of 296, which isn't too bad, but the Red Sox as a team 337, 40 points higher. The Yankees as a team have struck out 140 times. The Red Sox have less than that, right? The Red Sox have double the Red Sox have more home runs. Red Sox have more total bases. Red Sox have more stolen bases. The only thing the Yankees are doing better is walking, but it doesn't matter if the Red Sox are hitting the balls harder if they have more total bases, more extra base hits, more RBIs, and more points on their batting average, right? Like the team OPS for the Yankees 640, the Red Sox 790. That's ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense as to why the Yankees are performing so poorly. And honestly, I feel like the Red Sox are overperforming. I didn't think that was a playoff rush at the beginning of the year. Like, yeah, there's some guys on that team that are very attractive, but when you do what you do to cut payroll and
They're
get rid
just
of the
not very attractive. They're really, really good. I get what you're saying
don't-
about the payroll things, but they have some really good talent still on that team. When you're able to trade Andrew Benintendi, who's kind of been up and down with potential wise, and he's just getting so old. It's where it's like, all right, he's a boom or bust type of player
he's just
whenever
like
he comes off the
Druxton
bench.
Profar, right? Druxton Profar was supposed to be like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he's been on 4 teams in 7 years, or 3 teams in 7 years. And he was supposed to be the GOAT. Like, he's supposed to be the next best thing at second. I'm not even sure if he's playing second right now. I know he's in the Padres. I know he's not hitting the ball very well. But, like, that's the thing, right? Like, there's a lot of people like that, like the Benintendis, that are supposed to be good, and it just they're a quadruple A player. You send them down to the minors, they're gonna crush it. You send them up to the majors, they're gonna flounder. There's that middle line there where it's a boom or bust, right? You're gonna hit 2 homers in a game and have 9 total bags because you peppered a single in there. You go 3 for 4, and then you have an 0 for 10, 0 for 12 streak. Like, that's what happens with those types of players, where they're flashes, but it's nothing sustainable, nothing consistent. but you just can't put them down in the minors because they're banging up all your people who you're trying to, let gain confidence so they can come up and have their turn. I think what's going on is I don't know. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of a salary dump. The way that they got rid of Mookie, who is arguably the second best player in the Major League Baseball, um, and it looked more of a salary situation because they were hopeful that they'd re-sign him, but they didn't really. They didn't have an opportunity to, number one, because he never hit the open market. But like, how could you let a guy like that go?
Well, let me speak
Right?
on
Like, why
Boston
not
real
build
quick,
around that?
and then I'll ask you a real quick question about the Yankees, and then we can kind of finish on that.
Sure.
So with Boston, they've proven year in, year out, and they might be last 1 year, and this has been definitely recently as well too, where they'll be last in 1 year, and then the next year they're competing for a championship. Now,
Yeah.
they had the tools to do it. They had a decision to make. Maybe it was money hungry, and they've already said we have a track record of being able to
It's
find
probably David
talent,
Price.
recognize it, develop it, and also we get some talent back from these Dodgers as well. We also taking care of David Price. He's going somewhere where he can compete, as well as we get to save on some money as well. So they've
There might be
proven that with more opportunity, with more tools, and they can develop from within and draft very well. Why wouldn't you kind of take that extra step in getting rid of Mookie early? Because all of these long-term contracts haven't been really working out, especially after the 4th, 5th year. So would you rather be relevant year in, year out, and then also be money wise good as well, or would you, and then maybe can open up some opportunities to overspend later, or would you know that you can't really compete, and then you want to build like from within again? So I don't know. For me, they have a proven track record of being able to have consistent seasons and seasons that are definitely, as a fan, like that's a quality season. You know what I'm saying? So maybe not last year, but they've proven to bounce back pretty heavily and have some rings to show for it. Now, that's what I have to say about Boston. When it comes to the Yankees, though, I would have to ask you, is this just a slow start, or do you think that it's injury ridden, or do you think that it's more of, hey, these are what the Yankees are, and it might be injury ridden, but that's who they are. It's happening year in, year out.
I mean, that's who the Yankees have been since 2016, 2017. Look at the DL numbers on 2017 season, and they were still a game away from the World Series, and everybody was hurt that year. They're just hurt. They're always hurt. I don't know if it's a training situation. I don't know if it's because, the New York lifestyle is so nice that guys might not be as laser focused. I mean, sure, you're wearing the pinstripes, and sure, that's supposed to mean something, but if you can go to a sushi bar on a 150th floor of a building after the game's over, and I'm not saying that the guys are being responsible, they're not being responsible. I just wonder if maybe the spotlight's too big there for some of the guys that they acquired, because some of those guys didn't come up from there, like Stanton. Stanton did not come up in New York's farm system. In fact, Stanton signed a massive extension with Miami and then got salary dumped to the Yankees. Like, it just might be a situation where some of those guys just maybe need to change the scenery. Because on paper, their roster's second best in the majors, third best in the majors, and they have the worst record in the American League. They're 15th out of 15 teams.
Their mentality as the Yankee squad, in my opinion, is that they kind of went boom or bust, and they found people that live by their mentality of a boom and bust type of situation. When they're on the field, they are very good. Giancarlo Stanton, he won MVP. Aaron Judge should have won MVP when it comes to Jose Altuve stealing signs and taking that away. Now,
hey, where did Stanton win that MVP? What year? What league?
What happened?
When did Stanton win his MVP?
In the NL.
Okay, so I mean, he hasn't been in the NL in 5 seasons.
No,
I'm not saying he's not an MVP caliber player. I'm just saying sometimes those accolades, like, they're nice and they're on the mantle and they're gonna show up on your plaque if you make the Hall. But if you won the MVP in 2010 and it's 2020, you can't say he's an MVP player because he's just not. He was.
But that's what I mean by it. I'm not saying that he's MVP caliber right now, because that MVP title requires a five tool skill set, unless you just have big power numbers and you're just having a crazy ass year at the plate. But like,
well, Poppy almost won as a DH, and there was
I mean, Jose Abreu won last year for the AL, but that was a weird year as a whole. But I'm not gonna discount it for him, because then we're discounting our World Series or whatever.
The White Sox were good, and they're good now.
Exactly. So overall, again, he won an MVP. This is what this team was about. I feel like the Yankees are all about that. Uh, about selling tickets, living by the Yankee brand. Home runs
Right,
is a big brand
right.
of theirs. The Broxton Bombers.
Well,
Uh,
that's why their lines are symmetrical with like what is it 336 down left and right field line. That's like the shortest in the majors. Wrap it around the pole and you're gonna have a 60 homer season.
yeah.
Like
So there you go. And a lot of people are able to benefit from that. I think that with the game nowadays, the nastiness in the pitches, the all or nothing type of mentality, even though a lot of people have it, the ones that are really talented should not have that approach. The ones that are really talented should have more of an eye approach, taking your pitches as they come to you, having a scouting report, and then having your own approach. But again, not swinging at balls.
yeah,
Just that's like the main thing.
yeah,
I think that
100%.
creates a lot of just a lot of opportunities. It's simple to say, but the Dodgers in the last multiple years consecutively have shown to have just good at bats and making a pitcher work, getting the first pitcher out. Once you get to somebody's bullpen, you're able to do a lot of damage there. Hopefully, at least,
Yeah,
especially with
I
the
think I
three
was
batter
reading
rule
something.
nowadays. So they chose a different route. They chose the all or nothing. I think the Rays had that type of mentality last year as well. They had enough pitching to handle it and to close it out. They were just, let's just get 1 or 2 runs with the home run somehow, some way from somebody. Somebody's gonna do it in our lineup. I think the Yankees try to do the similar type of thing, and they rely on their relief pitching, because their relief pitching still nasty, especially nowadays. But
Yeah, you just have to have a lead for you to rely on those guys, right? Like
exactly. I
for your
mean,
relievers to matter, you need to give them hold situations and save situations, which is when your team is winning late in games. So I don't care. I don't care if you have a reliever who's going to go out and make 40 appearances and allow 20 runs, in 50 innings. If you don't have a lead when those guys are in the game,
yeah,
right? Like they need it needs to be a Josh Hader 2018 situation where every single time he was on that mound, it mattered. It fucking mattered. That guy was a stud. That guy was in the game for 80% of their wins. That's nuts. Like think about how impactful that reliever was.
hmm
So yeah, sure they have good relievers. They have great relievers. But it doesn't matter if they don't have a lead because
uh,
then you're just eating innings.
yeah. All right, so let's actually lock it up with that Yankees
Sure.
talk there. We talked about them for a cool minute. Let's actually kind of compare two teams. Uh, Andrew actually mentioned both of these ones. He's talking about the Reds. Are they the team to beat in
Oh,
the NL Central? You also have the
oh.
Giants, who are uh, showing some signs of competing in the NL West with the loaded NL West. Drew, out of both of these teams, who do you have more stock in? And, which one do you think can actually compete in their division?
I think it's Cincinnati. I was high-ish on the Cubs. I mean, I know that Theo Epstein left, right? And that was kind of like the writing on the wall that they might not be good anymore. They might not contend anymore. But when you look at the lineup and they still have Rizzo and they still have Contreras and they still have Baez for one more year and they still have Chris Bryant, right? And they still and they went out and they got Jake Arrieta back and they're hoping to get Jake Arrieta of old out of him. And that there's a guy who threw a no hitter on their roster last year. He threw a no hitter, right? Alec Mills or whatever. Like I felt like okay, the Cubs are going to compete. I feel like the Brewers' time has passed, and I feel like the Cardinals are always there. They're always there, right? And boy, was I wrong about the Cubs. At least they're fucking terrible. It's bad. I feel bad. They're bad.
Yeah, they're pretty
Like
bad.
they're not
But
good.
but just because the Cubs are bad, do you think that gives the Reds a much of a bigger chance?
Well, they're gonna play them 19 times this year. If you win 13 of those games, dude.
I
That
think the
means a
Cardinals still
lot.
have a roster to say we have something to say about it.
No, you asked me who I have more stock in, right? I'm not saying the Reds are going to win their division. I think they're playing way above what their roster says they should be playing at.
Uh
They're they're so good. I think
Dude,
they're
they
like at
literally have
7
pieces
runs a
that
game.
they're taking people and putting them into different positions just so that they can still use their bat. They're making people change positions so that they can keep them in the lineup, and then
They
they're
have
making it work.
they have more runs this season than the Dodgers. They have more runs this season than the Red Sox, the Braves, the White Sox. They have 20 more runs than the Astros, who are playing well enough. I mean, they just got swept, but they're still not. There's the talent. The roster still has talent, and I would love for them to go 0-162. But they're number one in runs scored. The Reds. They got 24 home runs. That's more than the Dodgers. That's more than the Red Sox. That's more than the White Sox. I mean, they're so good.
Okay, so
do you know what it is? Their pitching is average, right? Like they lost the Cy Young winner. He's not there anymore.
they can get some good pieces in their bullpen too. They have a history of just developing their
old
bullpen.
boy Amir Garrett. Old boy Amir Garrett ready to take on full on teams, bro. That guy's nuts.
Nuts.
But it doesn't. Here's the deal, right? Like we were just talking about the reliever situation in New York. It's only going to matter if you're winning, right? If your team's up when the reliever comes in. It doesn't matter if you allow 5 runs a game if you're scoring 7. And that's what the Reds are doing, right? They're averaging over 7 runs a game. That means their pitching can be shitty and they're still going to win because they got dudes who are just clobbering the ball. Joey Votto, still great. Fucking Eugenio Suarez, great. I mean, Castellanos, great. And then he's getting in pitchers' faces, fucking pumping up his chest.
Yeah.
Like that team, man, offensively, oof, I would. And it's not even like they're striking out a whole bunch either, or they're hitting into outs a whole bunch either, because they got a better team average than the Dodgers by 2 points. But they're hitting really well.
So let me answer
really
the same question here because I agree with everything that you have to say. For me, my biggest point when you ask about the 2 different teams is like which stock would you put your invest in, put your stock into, wanted some stock. It would have to be the Reds as well. I'm not. You spoke a lot about the Reds already. I spoke a little bit about it. I think it's more of the Giants and their division. You spoke about the NL Central and their struggles with certain teams that should be able to compete based off of their rosters. But you speak of the Giants in this division. I think that having Buster Posey back in his type of way, it's been a while since he's been healthy and back into that lineup. That's always a big boost for a Giants team.
Going to help a lot of players.
Exactly, and I think that his leadership alone is the biggest part that's going to be there, especially. I don't know, just you add Buster Posey to these different teams, and they just become championships teams, and it's a mixture of managing the players that were able to just produce when nobody expected them to, and then Buster Posey's leadership. So you can never count out that team mixed with Buster Posey. The only thing for me is that San Diego just has too much talent. The Dodgers just have too much talent.
Right.
They cannot compete with them the same way that the Reds can compete with, even the Cardinals. They're going to play each other very, very hard. The Giants, even though that they've been terrible these last multiple years, actually, the Dodgers always have a hard time beating them because they take those games serious. So I believe that the Reds have the same type of mentality when it comes down to their matchups with the Cardinals.
Who's the president of baseball operations down in San Francisco now? Do you know?
I have no idea.
It's Farhan Zaidi. It's the same guy.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
To Andrew Friedman in Los Angeles. So this guy had like the fucking crash courses of all crash courses on how to build a championship roster. And it's not like the Giants are afraid of spending money. Like they have got money to spend. They want to compete. I mean, right now the Giants have 8 World Series championships as a franchise. They're top 5. Like they have a winning history, a winning tradition. And I think what's going on is exactly what you said. The reason why I have more stock in Cincinnati is because the division's just less talented. Yes, the Giants are going to go out there and have 19 games against the Diamondbacks, and they're not very good. And yes, they're also going to have 19 games against the Rockies, who are, by the way, the worst team in the NL. But they have 19 games against the Dodgers, who are better this year than they were last year when they won a championship and had a winning percentage of close to 750, which translates to 120 wins. But they also have to play San Diego, who they've already played one time this year, by the way, and lost that series to. I think the Giants are going to have a really tough time being better than the Padres. And the only way that they're going to be better is if the Padres play hurt. And we're already seeing a little bit of that, right? Like, is Tatis healthy? Like Tatis goes in the IL for 10 days and comes back for a big first
Machado
series against the
stole a
Dodgers,
base
and
and
it's
was
all
limping, and then he also took a big swing too and was limping.
well. He had in the first 2 games he was like 1 for 12 with like 8 Ks and a dinger, right? Like sure he's got the dinger, but
Trash.
right, but he also has 7 errors in 7 games, and he had 5 errors in 50 games last year.
I did
Like
not
think
know
about
that. I'm
that.
gonna be honest with you. That's an interesting stat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, when Manny's
Tatis,
known for his gloves, so that's why
no,
it's a
no,
big
not
deal.
Manny. Fernando. Fernando's got
Oh,
all those errors.
Tatis, excuse me.
Yeah, and then Manny played really hard against the Dodgers, and you love to see it, man. You love to see the compete, right? Like he was out there hustling, stealing bases, scoring runs, right, earning walks. He wasn't trying to crush the ball. He was taking his singles, right? I mean, he had 2 ground ball hard hit singles through the hole, seeing eye grounders against Trevor Bauer in that game 3. And the game 1, he was 2 for 4 with 2 walks. He was on base 6 times, right? Scored 3 runs. Like I feel like Manny is playing well, but when you see Manny start to kind of limp there, and he's got a shoulder issue going on, and they don't put him on the IL, is it because he really is going to be okay, or is it because right now we're playing the Dodgers, and this is the team to beat, and we can't have our best guys down. And right now the Dodgers are playing without the 2018 MVP, without their Gold Glove winning center fielder, and they've won 13 games, and he hasn't been in 10 of them.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
come on now.
I think you're all correct on that. It's going to be a tough division to win and to kind of see where it goes. Do I think that the Rockies stink? The Arizona Diamondbacks
They
are
fucking
terrible.
stink.
Do I
They
see?
stink.
Do I see if
Stink.
the
They
Padres
stink.
can't stay healthy, the Giants competing in this division?
No.
That's a hard one to ask, and I don't see it happening just because I think the Padres have a good amount of
Uh,
depth.
the
And
Padres will be second in the division if Machado is healthy and Tatis isn't. If Tatis is healthy and Machado isn't, right? They're good enough to play with one of them down and still be second best in that division. They're still going to be better than the Giants. If they play with both of them, they have a chance to win the West.
so,
And
based off of what we're
it's
saying here, we're gonna go ahead
yeah,
and keep the Reds on our radar throughout the
keep them
whole
on the
entire
radar, man.
season. We want
Yeah,
them, and we're
well,
saying
at
they're
least
most
until the
likely
All
to
Star break.
compete. What's up?
You want to keep the Reds on your radar at least until the All Star break. You want to see if the situation in Chicago is going to get any better or if it's going to stay the same. If it's going to stay the same, expect to see Javier Baez traded, right? This is his free agency year. If they're fucking bad, Javi won't be there, right? Contreras he doesn't really have. I mean, he can backpick like with the best of them, but like, is he that good? Is he going to carry a team the way that Buster Posey can? Because you were talking about Buster Posey and his leadership and what he does for that team, right? I mean, Jock Peterson, I thought was a great signing until I saw what he's doing out there. He's batting less than 200, and then you got fucking the guy they let go to go get Jock, right? Who's the same player type, right? Kyle Schwarber, an outfielder, left-handed. He can walk. He strikes out a lot, but man, can he hit the ball? But did you see his 480-foot walk-off?
No,
I mean,
I
that
did
guy
not.
is,
Did
dude.
not. I mean, he's got that thick ass neck, so he's
He
got some
left.
power.
He left the fucking stadium. Like I watched the replay 4 times trying to find the ball. Couldn't. That shit was gone.
Gone. All right, and then
Gone.
we have. I know I don't mean to cut you off, but we're
No,
definitely
it's fine.
keeping it long right there. Let's go ahead and talk about the last two things here: the atrocious umpires. What's more
Oh,
surprising, the atrocious umpires or the weekly no-nos?
I, I, I think the weekly no-nos is a big deal because you almost had a couple. Yeah, you almost had a couple close calls again. Um, I mean
Not
that
just
second
not
no-no
just
was
no-nos
almost a
either, just
perfecto.
perfect games too.
Yeah, that second no-no was almost a perfecto, and then Darvish was perfect through 5 2/3 or 4 2/3, 5 2/3 against LA.
Does this
So
have
like,
something to do with the new ball? You think we were talking about it before the season started? It
yes,
was on one of our little
yes,
tryouts with these types of episodes, extra content. But ultimately,
I
we were speaking about the ball and how it is more of a dead type of ball.
I
It's
do.
it's I'm just giving the audience a little bit of backstory here. It's supposed to deaden the ball for about like 5 feet, less oomph on it, and it's a half ounce more or something like that. So yeah, you said you do.
So the ball is supposed to not travel as far on the fly, right? And I think we're already seeing the effects of that because people who you expect to have a lot of homers just don't right now.
It's also smoother.
Unless your name is Acuna. If your name's Ronald Acuna, you got dingers for days. But it's not
The
like
good
it's not
hitters are
like
still going to hit right, but it's going to be the difference between
yeah.
a wall scraper and a home run,
Corey
or
Seager's got
a
two
wall
home
scraping
runs this
home
year.
run, and then it's a warning track dead.
Right. Corey Seager's got two home runs this year. He's barreling over 50% of his balls, and he's got a hard hit percentage in the top 10 in the league, right? Which would have equated to the performance you saw in October, where he was the NLCS and World Series MVP, where he had what, like 8 dingers in a month. He doesn't have 8 dingers. He's hitting the ball just as hard, maybe not as consistently, but just as hard, and they're not leaving the yard. I'm seeing a lot of balls where I thought, wow, those are gone. In years prior, die in the warning track or not even make it to the warning track. So I think that's part of it. I think the mentality for a long time was so focused on launch angle and hitting it on the fly that now that the ball just doesn't carry, there's a lot more outs. So the people who were tough to get out before are even more tough to get out now because they already weren't relying on that. So now players are trying to adjust and not hit it as well, and they're hitting into more outs. I definitely don't think we're going to have 20 some odd no hitters for every week of the season. I mean, we already went a week without one, but opening week a no hitter, the week after almost a perfect game. I mean, it was 1 out to go in the ninth, and he hit the dude in the foot with his back foot slider, and then got the next guy. I think we probably will see a few more no hitters. I think it's going to take hitters a little bit more time to adjust, and I think the ball being lighter, it's a little bit easier to get an extra mile an hour on your velocity. Players are already having an average higher velocity this season than they were last season.
There we go. So when we were talking about it last time, I was speaking of how the ball is smoother. So these pitchers are gonna have. I think it was an ounce lighter too, not an ounce heavier. I think I said that wrong.
It's lighter. It's lighter. They
A
can
half
spin it
ounce
harder,
lighter.
throw it harder.
Yeah, so a half ounce lighter, and they're able to throw the ball harder, like you were mentioning. And oh man, I, I, we asked the question, which one is more surprising, weekly no-nos or atrocious umpires? I'm going to have to say the atrocious umpires, just because, again, the ball is lighter, the ball's gonna have more velocity. So a lot of people didn't participate in the last year. People that are being called up didn't have the same type of regimen they had last year. Overall, I think that everybody's getting
Really good
acclimated
points.
once again. So due to the
See, it's kind of expected,
lack
right?
of,
That
what were you
they're
saying?
going to be slow starting offensive. You're saying because of those factors, it was going to be a slow start offensively,
Yeah,
is
exactly.
what you
And
think?
it's not too much of a surprise to me. A lot of the no
Yeah,
hitters
I agree
happen
with that.
from my experience. They happen earlier in the season, not later in the season. You kind of catch somebody off guard. It's always something great to spark off the season. Hey, check out, this guy's gonna do a no. This guy's gonna do a no. From my history watching baseball, a lot of it happens in the beginning of the season. Now these atrocious umpires are insane. We had one that was the play at the plate, and it was against, who was it, Andrew? The teams?
It was the Mets and the Phillies.
The Mets and the Phillies, and I forgot who was able to slide their foot under, and
The fucking
apparently
Phillies
they
won that
touched the
game.
base.
It was that good-looking skinny cat who plays
Alex
the hot
Bohm?
corner.
I think it's Bohm.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Alex
that's him.
Bohm comes in, slides under, and it apparently at first they call him safe, and then they check it out in the replay, and I guess they didn't have enough to overturn it, so they called
His
them
foot never
safe
touched the
still.
plate.
Even though, yeah, his foot did not touch the plate. We have replay reviews to handle this, and it didn't work, and everybody is crazy about it. Not only that, but another game, a lot of games this year have been whether somebody's getting tossed out a little bit early, or if they're just having missed calls, and then people are getting thrown out based off of that, and even missed calls that end games, right, Drew?
Yeah, I mean that missed call. It's gonna think about this, right? Like a couple years ago, there was a situation where at the end of the season, two teams were tied for first in their division, and they had to play a one-game playoff to see who wins the division. And let's just put that in perspective. Let's just say that at the end of the season, the Phillies and the Mets are tied for first in their division, and it's because one of the Mets' games were robbed from them in this atrocious, nasty way. I don't think I don't think the season should be boiled down into one game. I think the season's 162 games on purpose. I think we're going to find out the truth about a lot of teams and expose the winners and expose the losers. But I think in this situation, if it really does if the season really is super contentious and these teams are that similar, and we're already seeing there's tightness in that division, right? With the Braves having a slow start, anyways, this is the perfect time to make us some games. Let's just say the Braves, and let's just say that the Mets are tied for first, and they got to play a 1-game playoff. This is going to be the game where they're going to look back to and say we should have won our division.
And now let's not make excuses. You just said right now too that it's 162 games. One game's not going to decide that. So I'm kind of going to just tag along with it that the NBA is having a big problem with a lot of people getting ejected. Fouls being called and they're not called, wrong calls as a whole, people hunting for calls as well. So it's just kind of a mess in the NBA, and it's also seems like it's going to be a mess in the MLB too with these umps. For me, the players can get fined in their profession for making mistakes. I think that people should, the umpires, the refs of both of these types of organizations, sports organizations, should start making that type of thing. Now, I know that there's a CBA with the refs, with the umpires as well. They have their own union. I just think that would have to be something that would be negotiated in the next bargaining agreement so that they can have a high quality standard the game.
This is where I would agree with you, but I think you're wrong.
On
I
both
think your
sides.
ideas are right, but I don't think you're seeing the big picture. And I touched on this early, and I love the callback. And I love that we're ending on this. I think this is less about the umpires' incompetence and more about the league's lack of action, right? And you're saying to find them, right? And so you're on the right track. But I just think that Rob Manfred doesn't give a shit.
When it's atrocious, though? Wait, when it's atrocious?
Rob Manfred doesn't give a shit. Because it's been bad for years.
Well, it's okay, real quick, though.
It's been bad for years.
We've been talking about this a little bit beforehand, and we'll kind of wrap it up with a whole episode on this. Rob Manfred has been having mixed messages with the rules that he's implementing to either save time, provide more entertainment, enhancing replay so we can get the calls right. And then none of it is working. And
it's not working.
The game is still long. The action is not there. Players are getting hurt. Like there's nothing that he's deadening the ball so it doesn't go as far, so that he has less offense, more doubles and singles apparently to cause that offense. But I feel like that will lead to just more outs.
I think
it's confusing. He's a confusing guy.
I think the way the rule is written when it comes to replay is part of the problem. And they wrote it very similar to the NFL, where if you can't figure out whether the play is called right or called wrong, then you just go with the call on the field. And the reason that works in the NFL is because half the time they're challenging the spot of the ball, and there's 14 bodies on top of the guy, because that's the way the football's played. That's fine, right? But the guys who are reviewing the play are the umpires on the field.
No, but that's true. I don't think that you're wrong. Real quick. I don't think that you're wrong. My thing is that it wasn't that close. The reason why we're so upset about it is because we could take a close call. It happens all the time, like Des caught it type bullshit. I'm talking about that it was plain in sight that he was out and he was still safe.
I agree.
But I do agree with I've learned it since I was like 7 years old. Tie goes to the runner. Goes to the runner. So that's why I don't agree with.
But if his foot touches the base, then I understand.
No, but if they called it first, he's safe, and then they're not able to make the judgment. But they were. Well, so that's my problem about it.
Everybody but the people in New York were. But this is what you have to understand.
In football, and let's end it on this right here.
Yeah, sure. In football, when a play is reviewed, the people who are reviewing it is the crew on the field. Right? They get the headphones on, they get under the hood, and then the head referee makes a call in football. In baseball, once it goes to New York, it's out of their hands. They're just there to listen and talk about whatever, right? But what's going on is New York shouldn't know what the call is. It shouldn't be like football, right? In football, they know what the call is because they're the ones who fucking called it. Because it's the same crew who's reviewing the play. In baseball, it shouldn't be that. It should be that New York has no idea what the fuck's going on. The phone just rings. They go, "Oh, what's going on? You want me to tell you what I think I saw? Okay, cool. Let me look at all 20 camera angles. Slow down. Hey, spoiler alert. He's out. Is that what you guys called? They're mad because they want the run, huh? They're just challenging it because they want the run, huh? Because I see that it's tied in the 8th inning. Oh no, that wasn't the case. You guys fucking blew it, but we're gonna cover our own ass because there's no accountability. But here's the weird part: is it's so inconsistent, right? Because let's talk about a ref that I love to hate on, and you love to make fun of me for hating on. But let's talk about Angel Hernandez for 2 seconds. Angel Hernandez is one of the worst umpires when it comes to strike zone consistency and calls on the field. Angel Hernandez was mad that he didn't get to call a playoff game, so he claimed discrimination and sued the MLB, right? Because he wasn't part of an umpiring crew in the playoffs, where they make more money, by the way. But then they gave him a playoff series in New York, by the way, and in the first 4 innings of the first game, he had 3 calls challenged and overturned because he's that fucking bad. Why not fire a guy who can't make a call? But they won't.
Well, that's what you're saying. It's just a thing of getting accountability for it. And I think that if you have fines, maybe not as crazy, but ultimately, like, they'll be less likely to make these types of calls that are against them. Or, there's a lot of chitter chatter when it comes to the umpires. Right? Listen real quick. There's a lot of chit chat when it comes to umpires and players. I don't doubt that they call a ball a strike every once in a while to get back at people. I don't doubt that at all.
I don't either.
Okay, so accountability is definitely a big one. What you're saying is
there should be a fine system implemented, and I'm saying that I agree with you and that you're on the right track, but that you got it wrong. What you're failing to realize is the incompetence of the commissioner. They're doing this shit because the commissioner doesn't care.
But I'll fire Angel Hernandez. I'm not going to fire a guy who made a terrible call one game, and then I have to have a brand new umpire who's going to make way more mistakes later on.
I'm not saying that umpire deserves to lose his job, right?
No, you said that Angel Hernandez deserves to lose his job, but that was his punishment. Where these other guys, how else are they going to get punished?
It's not about the one playoff game. It's the last 5 seasons he's been dog shit. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm not trying to fire Jim Joyce for ruining Armando Galarraga's terrific game. I'm not trying to fire Phil Cuzzi, who just had like the worst string of 3 fucking starts behind the plate this season. Like, there's a Twitter account. I'll give it to you. It's called Umpire Scorecards. Look at Phil Cuzzi. He's terrible. He's fucking bad. He's real bad.
Well, that would be possibly an interesting one that everybody can look at to see how good a certain umpire is, especially one that's mentioned inside the game. They usually give the lineups beforehand. But that is
Phil Cuzzi. His last 3 starts. Dog shit. I'm not saying to fire these guys. Dog shit. I'm just saying to hold them accountable.
Yeah, right? Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. But that concludes.
You have to have a competent.
God damn it, Drew.
To hold people accountable. No, I'm so passionate about Rob Manfred's idiocy. Like, it's so much. It's so much. Let's change the rule here. Like you were talking about, let's do time management shit here. Let's do this, that here. Let's do this, that here. But then we talk about cheaters. It's just a piece of metal. I made my report. I chose not to. We made a deal with the MLB player. We did. Like, he's just like everything he does, man. I would do the opposite of that. Everything that he's trying to do to grow the game, I would do the opposite of that. Right? Here's a really good situation, and I know it really closely because this is the team that I happen to watch the most games of. But Trevor Bauer, he's this reigning Cy Young Award winner. He goes to Los Angeles, right? And he's super big on his brand, because smart players should know that your career earnings on the field don't matter if you can market yourself appropriately. How many players play in a professional sport and live off their endorsement money? There's a lot more of them outside of the MLB than there are inside the MLB. Alvin Kamara, star, gets paid fucking crazy money. Has not touched a game check in his whole career because he uses endorsement money. There's a lot of football guys who do that. There's a lot of basketball guys who do that. I mean, how much money is LeBron James worth? His career earnings don't mean shit. It doesn't matter to me that he signs a max contract every year. He doesn't fucking touch that money, bro. LeBron James has enough money to run a goddamn school and like pay kids tuitions, and he still doesn't touch his money, right? So this is why it's so important, because the commissioner and the league is like, you guys got to brand yourself. You guys got to care about your own image. You guys got to grow yourself without our help, because we don't give a shit. How many times do you see a flashy Foot Locker commercial with an MLB star on it? The way that you see KD and Curry and LeBron and everybody else have. right? How many times do you see MLB 100 commercials where they're talking about all the greats from the game and all the things that they've done and stuff that's happened in recent years that we can remember and look back on and be like, yeah, I remember. I remember when Malcolm Butler made the interception on the one. Oh yeah, I remember when. I remember when Adrian Peterson was like 1 yard short of the record of Eric Dickerson's rushing record or whatever it is. Like the MLB doesn't have that, right? The MLB tells your players, hey, go market yourselves. So that's what Trevor Bauer does. So he's wearing a Dodger shirt that's Dodger blue with an LA logo here and his Trevor Bauer logo here. And they fucking fine him. Can't grow your brand. Can't do that. You can't wear non-authorized logos on the field. But it's the player's logo. And you just told the player to market himself. Oh, but we want to appeal to a younger generation. But we're going to fine all the guys who are doing that. Nick Castellanos doesn't even get in a fight with the guy. He just gets pumped up if he scores on a wild pitch. Yep, let's just suspend him for 2 games. Oh, okay, Joe Kelly makes a frown face. Let's suspend him for 6 games. A pitcher who's known to be wild, by the way. He has had a lot of He has a lot of hit batsmen. Oh, let's just discredit the commissioner's trophy. It's just a piece of metal. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that players want to earn this and work their asses off for it. And October is where we make our money. And we're hoping that every game goes 7 because we're only going to pay the players for the first 4. And we get to keep the revenue for the other 3. It's just a piece of metal. You cheated. It doesn't matter. Keep the ring. The 2017 MVP, Jose Altuve, he can keep his trophy. Oh, the umpires got another call wrong. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to figure out how to make the 2-hour and 20-minute game 2 hours and 16 minutes. So let's just let the call on the field stand because we're spending too much time reviewing it. Like, that's how I think this motherfucker thinks. He is the worst person for baseball, and he runs the sport. He's just the worst. I can't stand him. I fucking hate him. I hate him. If the game wasn't so good, if I wasn't so passionate about the way that the game is played and the strategy that goes into it, I would have moved on, bro. Like, there are so many people who are so frustrated with the social movement, and I don't want to get into it because personally I believe in it, but like players are taking a knee and like, you know, like standing together. Let's talk about social injustice. Let's use our platform. I think that's great for every league that's doing it. But how many people stopped watching football because the anthem was being disrespected? Right? Like that. I'm almost at that point where I'm ready to stop watching baseball, but not because of social injustice or not because of what the players are or aren't doing, because of the league's inactions, because of the guy who runs it and the decisions he makes. He's fucking terrible. He's the worst. He's the dude, if I ever meet him in public, I'd throw a pie in his face. He's a clown, bro.
Well, there we go. Andrew's Rant. That'll be a new segment on the Sports U Podcast MLB edition. No, I liked it. That was good content for me, but my battery's almost dead on my camera here. Yep. We have about 57 minutes of footage here. That's going to be the first one. Hopefully we have many, many more, and hopefully this one worked out because the last couple did not. But
yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you guys out here supporting the U, and hopefully baseball resonates with some of you. Don't be afraid to put some teams in the comment section, players in the comment section, stuff you want us to talk about. I mean, I will talk about any team, any player, any era, anytime. I love baseball.
Sounds so good. Yeah, that's why I picked him to be pretty much co-host of this MLB area when it comes to, just sports as a whole. So this is Dr. Drew signing out. Right?
Signing out, guys.
Signing out.
Thank you so much.
And you have Rob on the mic. Thank you for supporting the U guys. Have a great rest of your day, and subscribe if you like the content. Hopefully you can like the video as well. And continue to support the U.